All right, we are recording. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join us today. My name is Gabby Richards. I work for Berlin Rosen, and I will be moderating today's call. This call was convened in response to the Supreme Court's ruling in California v. Texas, which rejected a challenge to the Affordable Care Act. We are joined today by various attorneys general, including Attorney General Ford, who is also the co-chair of the Democratic Attorneys General Association, and the Attorney General of Nevada, Massachusetts Attorney General Letitia James, Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson, Virginia Attorney General Mark Herring, Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul, and we also have an advocate from the Healthcare America Now from HCAN. And now we will kick it off. If we could start with Attorney General Ford to kick it off, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, and good morning, afternoon to those who are on screen. I'm Aaron Ford, the Democratic Attorney General for the state of Nevada, and also co-chair for the Democratic Attorneys General Association. Let me just begin by saying today is a good day for America. The Supreme Court once again has rejected a challenge to the Affordable Care Act. When Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and 17 Republican Attorneys General brought this case, we Democratic Attorneys General knew we had to defend the law. Your right to health care isn't up for debate as far as we're concerned, and we took this fight all the way to the Supreme Court. And a 7-justice majority of the Supreme Court has now ruled on our side. They decided that the plaintiffs had not suffered the sort of injury, direct injury, that gave them standing or the right to sue. And at the end of the day, Republican Attorneys General wasted thousands of taxpayer dollars on an unsuccessful lawsuit to take away critical health care without offering any replacement. And all of this while the nation battles the worst public health crisis in over a century, which has taken the lives of almost 600,000 Americans. If they had been successful, millions of people would have lost Medicaid, access to private insurance. Young people would have been kicked off of their parents' health, and the list goes on. In my own state of Nevada alone, we would have lost 282,000 Nevadans would have lost their healthcare coverage. 19,000 Nevada young adults would have lost their parents' coverage. 74,000 Nevada children would have lost their coverage. 96,000 approximately Nevada Latinos could have lost their coverage. And Nevadans could have lost the most important federal healthcare funding that they needed in order to make things well for them here in my state. Over 1.2 million Nevadans who have pre-existing conditions and thousands of children and young adults who were insured under the ACA had their healthcare jeopardized. We didn't let it stand though, and I commend my former Attorney General colleague and now HHS Secretary Javier Becerra on his leadership here and defending the ACA just weeks after the presidential election in November. Thanks to him and the Democratic Attorneys General here at the ACA, and its benefits and protections remain the law of the land. Happy to stand with my colleagues who are on the screen with me today because again, we stood together and will continue to stand together to stand up for the health care for all Nevadans under the Affordable Care Act. So thanks so much for being here, and we look forward to entertaining your questions.
Next, we'll go over to New York Attorney General Letitia James. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Today is a great day for all Americans. The Affordable Care Act has provided countless protections to Americans across the nation over the last decade. And despite Republican-led efforts to strip health coverage away from millions of Americans, the highest court in the land, again, today, rejected those efforts. To be clear, our counterparts in Texas and in other Republican-led states, along with the Trump administration, fought in this case to kick children off their parents' healthcare plans. They fought to rip coverage away from the 133 millions with pre-existing conditions, despite what they advertise. They tried to rip coverage away from those individuals with pre-existing conditions. They fought to charge women more for no other reason than being a woman. They fought to increase the cost of prescription drugs for seniors, and they fought to deprive millions of additional Americans access to quality, affordable health care. Republicans may have been okay denying access to care to tens of millions of Americans, but It was the Democratic attorneys general, once again, who stood up for democracy, who stood up for decency, who stood up and fought back. And because of our efforts, for the third time, the Supreme Court has denied Republican attempts to dismantle the Affordable Care Act and all of its social consequences. In fact, the highest court in the land said this Texas-led coalition never even established the standing, the injury, the pocketbook injury to bring this case forward in the first place. That means every one of their arguments were rejected. So now, young people, seniors, women, individuals with pre-existing conditions, low-income Americans, and millions more can finally breathe a sigh of relief, because the countless protections in the Affordable Care Act will continue to remain in place because of Democrats. And while all Americans should celebrate today's victory, Democratic attorneys general will continue to remain vigilant and fight back against any efforts to undermine the law, the rights, and strip Americans of their right to health care. Again, I congratulate my former colleague, Attorney General Becerra, and the California Attorney General Bonta, for this great victory on behalf of all. And today is a great day for Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, AG James. Next, we'll kick it off, kick it over to AG Ferguson.
Thanks so much. And hey, to just all my colleagues, as always, it's such a joy, really, and a privilege to work with all of you on standing up for Americans on these critical issues. And something we've gotten used to over the last 4 or 5 years is not just standing up, but winning over and over and over again. We've won over and over again. We challenged the administration on lawsuits that we brought. I know the record's similar for virtually every state that's on this call. I know for Washington, we have 45 decisions in cases we're involved in with all the AGs here. We have 43 wins and just 2 losses. My guess is for every AG you're looking at, that their record and their cases are very similar. And now we've had the real honor of defending the Affordable Care Act in court. And one thing I just want to emphasize, I think my 2 colleagues who spoke already covered some of the key statistics. I think it's worth just reminding folks on this call how we got here, which is in part, General James, what you mentioned, which is Republican AGs once again challenging the Affordable Care Act. Just to be clear, I've been Attorney General now for 9 years. My predecessor in Washington State, Republican Attorney General Rob McKenna, was part of a coalition of Republican AGs who challenged Obamacare that long ago, just to be clear. And we're still fighting this battle. There's only one word for it with Republican AGs when it comes to Obamacare. They are obsessed with trying to tear away these protections for millions and millions of Americans and 800,000 Washingtonians, which candidly angers me. This is how they spend their time and their taxpayer dollars on this obsession, and they lose over and over and over again. And guess what? They're not going to stop. They're going to try it again. And we will be there to defend, once again, successfully defend this. The thing I just want to add is that in terms of how we got here, when Texas Attorney General Paxton brought this lawsuit, the same Attorney General who led the lawsuit challenging the election results after the 2020 election, by the way, that was kicked out by the Supreme Court immediately. When they brought this lawsuit, it's the duty of the federal government, the Federal Department of Justice, to defend federal laws. The Trump administration refused to defend Obamacare, which is why the folks you're seeing on this call, teaming up with California, went to that judge in Texas and said, wait a second, we're not a part of this lawsuit, but if they're not going to defend it, let us come into this courtroom and defend it and do the job that the federal government is supposed to do, which is to actually defend federal laws. We all do that. We defend state laws that may or may not be popular. That's our job. They refused to do their job, so we had to do it for them. And I'm just so thankful that, again, to be part of a team that doesn't just stand up on these issues, but actually wins. And our teams, the lawyers and professional staff and all of our offices stood up, I'm just so proud of. It's great to be a part of this one more time. And I'm just going to say, look, as great as this day is, I'm just going to be real honest, they're not going to stop. They're just not. And I'm looking forward to to being on a call with you guys. Hopefully it won't be by Zoom. Hopefully we can be in person when we have to get back together and say we defeated them for a fourth time. So it's an honor to be with all of you. Thanks so much. And it's great to see all my colleagues on this call. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, AG Ferguson. Next, we'll kick it over to AG Herring.
Well, thank you very much, Attorney General Mark Herring from Virginia. And today's decision is a huge win for every Virginian and for every American. This lawsuit was nothing more than a thinly veiled political attack from the very start, completely lacking in merit. And it has forced millions in our country to live with the fear every day that their health care could be yanked away from them at any moment. And so it is a great win. Had this lawsuit been successful, 642,000 Virginians would have lost their health care. 3.4 million Virginians would have lost protections for pre-existing conditions. And now, because of this win, they know that they will be able to keep that. And I'm really incredibly proud to have been a part of this coalition defending the Affordable Care Act, making sure that it stays and remains the law of the land. Every Virginian, every American deserves to have access to quality, affordable health care, no matter who they are, what their medical history is, what their employment status is, or what financial background they have. And I am committed to that principle. So no matter what happens in the future, Virginians will know I will always be there to defend and protect their health care and protect them from these the relentless attacks by Republicans to yank it away from them. I will always be there to fight to protect their health care. I'm very proud to be a part of this coalition, and thank you all for joining the call.
Thank you. And next, we'll go over to AG Call.
Thank you. Well, first, let me just say it's great to be here with some of my outstanding colleagues. It's always a privilege to join you. And I would echo what you've heard from the other AGs. I don't want to cover what they've covered, but I do want to just make a few points. One is, this case is Exhibit A for why it matters who your Attorney General is. Every Democratic AG supported keeping the ACA in place, and a lot of Republican AGs were on the other side of this case. Exhibit A might have been the election, as Bob was mentioning before, so maybe this is Exhibit B, but again, there is such a clear difference between not only standing up for the best interests of people and what's right, but standing up for the rule of law and defending our system. I couldn't be more proud to be part of this group of AGs. You heard a lot about some of the statistics. The same thing is true in Wisconsin. But I want to mention one of the things I've heard as I've been to similar events like this, talking about the importance of the ACA. And that is having heard from people whose lives have been changed forever because of the ACA. I have heard from multiple people who were able to get health insurance coverage only because the Affordable Care Act was passed and because it was in place. Those people were anxious. When I heard them talk about these cases, they were nervous about what was going to happen to them in the future. They can finally rest more easily now with this decision. But they were anxious because they were worried that they weren't going to be able to get the health care that they needed, maybe to save their lives or maybe to make a huge difference in the quality of their lives. But that is what was at stake for many people in Wisconsin and around the country. What was also at stake was their ability to remain financially viable if they had to get health coverage. The Affordable Care Act has lifetime limits that prevent families from going into bankruptcy when they get the health insurance coverage that they need. So this is going to help keep families in the middle class and stop them from going into poverty. And this is ultimately going to save the lives of our fellow Americans. So it is really difficult to overstate how important this decision today is for people. It's going to mean that young adults who graduate from high school or who are college students or who are college graduates who go into the workforce, they're going to be able to stay on their parents' coverage because of the guarantee in the ACA that they can remain on that coverage until they turn 26. So this is really a life-changing event for many people, and this striking the ACA down would have been life-changing in a really negative way. And one other thing I want to say is I ran for Attorney General and was elected in 2018, as were some of my colleagues on the line here. I know Mark was reelected the year before. But one of the big issues in my race was this case. My predecessor, who I was running against, was one of the leaders of the lawsuit trying to end the Affordable Care Act. This was an issue in many other states as well. I suspect it was an issue in A.G. Ford's race and others. And voters in 2018 sent a very clear message that they supported the candidates who supported health insurance coverage for the American people. And we don't know what would have happened in this case if the 2018 elections had gone differently, but we do know that voters sent a very clear message. We know, frankly, that judges and justices read the newspapers, and we have a 6-3 conservative majority on the US Supreme Court. But today's decision was not close. It was 7-2. This suit was rejected and the ACA is going to remain in place. So I also want to give my thanks to all the voters who worked to make the 2018 elections so successful for supporters of the ACA. So thanks.
Thank you, AG Cole. And next we'll kick it over to Joel Foster from Healthcare for America Now.
Thank you. I'm Joel Foster, the Deputy Director of Healthcare for America Now, HCAN, the coalition of state and national organizations that fought to pass, implement, and defend the Affordable Care Act, and has been doing so for over 12 years now. Today's ruling is a huge victory for all Americans, as the attorneys general have said, including the record 31 million people who are covered thanks to the Affordable Care Act. Over the past year, in particular, the ACA has been a lifeline for people who lost their jobs and their health insurance during the pandemic. And the ACA ensured that more than 8 million COVID-19 survivors will not be denied healthcare due to pre-existing conditions. We're deeply grateful for the efforts of the attorneys general, for Secretary Becerra, who fought tirelessly to protect the ACA and healthcare for millions of Americans, leading to today's massive victory. Republicans tried and failed once again to abolish the ACA. They tried to take away healthcare from 31 million people. They tried to eliminate vital benefits and protections that we all rely on. Enough is enough. The ACA has been the law of the land for more than a decade. It benefits every single American. No more attacks. No more fringe, politically motivated lawsuits. Instead of trying to take healthcare away from tens of millions of people, it's time to build on the ACA's successes and make improvements that will make healthcare more affordable and accessible for everyone. Coverage is now more affordable and accessible than ever, thanks to the American Rescue Plan's expansion of the ACA. It's time to make that expansion permanent and build on the law, not tear it down. Congress must continue to build on the ACA, starting with closing the Medicaid coverage gap and making permanent the affordability increases in the ACA's permanent tax credits passed under the American Rescue Plan. At HCAN, we just want to say thank you to the attorneys general who tirelessly defended millions and millions of people and their healthcare. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, with that, we do not have at the moment any questions from media in the chat. Want to thank all of the attorneys general for joining us today and for making themselves available on such short notice to respond to today's amazing decision by the Supreme Court. So just to go down the line, thank you to Attorney General Ford, to Attorney General Herring, to Attorney General James, Attorney General Ferguson, Attorney General Call, and to Joel Foster from Healthcare for America Now, also known as HCAN. If you have any questions to those from the media who are on the call, you can follow up with the email that has been provided through the press contact through the media advisory. And we also have a recording of today's conference call available should you need it for any of your further reporting. But thank you all so much for taking the time to join us. And with that, we will end today's discussion. Thank you so much.
Great to see you all. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Congratulations, everyone.